The Minnesota Vikings are about to play a football game. Yes, get excited. But we're going to start off a little differently, especially for those of you who are watching after the Vikings game. First part of the show, we're going to talk about a Jordan Addison contract extension. Why is it prevalent? Jameson Williams just signed one, and he is not the player that Addison is. Then we'll break down all the latest news going into Monday Night Football. Welcome to a game day edition of the Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Real Forno Show, sponsored by your friends at Underdog Fantasy. My name's Tyler Forness. With me, as always, is producer Dave. We have a Vikings game tonight. Holy shit, we have a Vikings game tonight. Yes, we're going to talk all about it. We're going to get you all the latest piece of information leading up to the game here in a little bit. But we wanted to start the show off for everybody who won't be able to listen live because the pregame won't really matter a whole lot to you. We're going to start with this Jameson Williams contract. And it dropped this weekend. And I was just absolutely baffled by it because, one, Jameson Williams is an emerging player, but he's only had one season that you could even classify as good out of his three. Well, he did get over 1,000 yards by literally one. He's kind of just been there, and his numbers are actually significantly worse than Jordan Addison's on both a per game and a cumulative basis. So that's why we're having this conversation, because there's been a lot of talk about Addison's future in Minnesota because of the violations that he's had in terms of, like, so he's had the two moving violations. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's like, well, do you want to keep a guy who's going to keep making mistakes? That's kind of the big question around Vikings media and fans alike. Like, what do you do? Well, I'm under the assumption that they're going to re-sign him at some point, but they legally cannot do so till the day after the season ends, which I believe, Dave, is January 6th. I think that's the Monday. So if you can't do it until January 6th, well, you have plenty of time to figure it out. And that's the earliest you can sign him to an extension. So the reason why it's important is because it kind of sets the market for a theoretically high-end wide receiver too. It also lays out the blueprint for the Vikings to sign him and have both McCarthy and Justin Jefferson on a high-end extension. Because look, we don't know that McCarthy's going to be worthy of an extension, but when you talk about a salary cap perspective, you have to plan for him to be worthy of an extension. That's why you take him. So once he proves that he's worthy, then you have the conversations about getting it done, so then you can spread the money out as early as humanly possible. Don't be the Dallas Cowboys. So it's, yes, I know. Well, we've talked about it, Dave. The Dallas Cowboys have completely screwed themselves. And like the Dak Prescott contracts, oofta. Like, they are so bad because Jerry Jones waited way too long in order to get those contracts signed. And by doing so, it cost them a lot more money. And getting it done early can be a positive, but you have to plan for it. Now, sometimes a guy just emerges that you don't have plans for and you have to figure it out. Think of last year with the Philadelphia Eagles and Zach Bond. They signed him to like a $2 million deal. Like, okay, he'll be like a rotational edge rusher for us. And then Vic Fangio was like, I want that guy at middle linebacker. And then he was just an all-pro. So now it's like, oh, well, we have to figure out a way to keep this guy. They did. They figured out a way to keep him. And those things are really important. You have to be able to manage the salary cap like that, and you have to be able to manage the salary cap in a multitude of ways.
Andrew Van Ginkel is a prime example.
Well, I would say no, because the Vikings wanted a 3-year deal with him. But because the market was offering him a 2-year deal, that's what Van Ginkel wanted, because he's now 30. He wanted a chance to be able to hit the market again while still being able to get a big contract. So that's why that one happened. But the concept is right. You want to be able to ink these guys on your terms, not theirs. The Eagles had to do it on Bond's terms because it was unexpected. But they're already planning for a McCarthy extension. So let's break down the Jameson Williams contract and then the ramifications it has on the Vikings. So Williams got a baffling deal, but it also could make complete sense, and I'll explain why. 3 years, $83 million extension with $67 million guaranteed. There's a couple different things to take from this. One, based on an average annual value perspective, it's $27.66 million based on the raw numbers given by Schultz. Now, this isn't an insult to Schultz. Schultz is an insider. He's just like Rappaport and Schefter. But they get a lot of their information from agents. So how much of this is real money versus how much of this is kind of papered? Because remember, when Christian Darrisaw signed his deal, it shrunk by about $12 million. Same with Byron Murphy's, because a lot of that is incentives. And incentives are a very normal part of contracts. So we have to try and determine how much of this is real and how much of this is abstract. It's like looking at Van Gogh versus Picasso. I know what Starry Night looks like. Picasso, there's a bunch of interpretations for it. That's kind of what we're dealing with here. So if he has a bunch of incentives that are going to be hard to hit, remember Kirk Cousins' contract was worth up to $90 million, that first one. He got $2 million each year the Vikings won the Super Bowl, because that was the way the Vikings could give him the $90 million that the Jets were offering without actually giving it to him. It was because he was viewed as the last piece to a Super Bowl. Made sense. So does Jameson Williams' contract have a bunch of those? We don't know yet. We will know in time. Right now, it's a little up in the air. But what we do know is Jameson Williams is not as good as Jordan Addison, and he does not get, he doesn't have near the production, but what he does have is speed. He has speed. Cause and effect, we'll get there, I promise. We're gonna get all of that done. Williams has game-breaking speed. When he has the ball in his hands, he can do a lot with it. Problem is, they've had trouble getting the ball in his hands. He's only played in 33 games in his career, already had 2 suspensions, and missed, what was it? He missed 11 games in his rookie year from a torn ACL he suffered at Alabama. So it's a complicated thing. And when you look at Williams, this is an upside play. You sign him now and hope he's cheap. And one of the reasons why you do it is the upcoming TV deals. Remember, the players get about 50% of that TV deal money. It goes to the Players Association, and it goes to the players, and it's one of the many factors of the salary cap. So when you look at it, this could be really cheap. And it's one of the reasons why the Lions are paying so many guys right now, because the salary cap could just have a huge boom in 2028. And all of a sudden, these guys are a lot less expensive on a percent basis. So by signing him now, before he has that breakout that they're expecting, this could end up being a value for the Lions. And in turn, Williams himself gets that money no matter what. He's guaranteed $67 million unless he does something to void the guarantees. That is good for the player. They get the money now. Justin Jefferson could have had $28 million if he signed after year 3. He waited until after year 4, he got $35 million. But there's always a risk you take. You never know when one hit could just ruin your life. You could break your neck. You could be paralyzed. It could end your career. All it takes is one play. And any player will tell you that. One play can change everything about every single second that you live after that. So getting the legendary contract that'll set you up for years and years and years is really important. That's what Williams did. And From a human perspective, good for him. I'll always cheer from a human side of it whenever ever a player makes and gets that kind of money. From a football side of it, oh, buddy, I don't like this very much on the surface, Dave. I think he's overrated. It's the speed thing. Now he compliments Amon-Ra St. Brown, but how much of what he was good at and how he produced was because Ben Johnson? How's that going to translate to John Morton? Well, it didn't in week one. Nothing translated in week one. So I have real concerns that this was a good move. And overall, I think the Lions have done a really good job of signing players. This one baffles me. But that can be a good thing. It's also a bad thing for the Vikings. Because if Jameson Williams is going to get $27.6 million a year, Addison's going to get 30. A much better football player, a much more complete football player. Addison isn't slow. He runs in the 4.4s, but he's not like that Tyreek Hill level speed. General managers love the speed, but speed is different. Addison and Jefferson have game speed, route running speed, the ability to not lose a step when you're making breaks. That's what makes them special. And if you look at it, a colleague of mine at Voice of Wrestling, Jesse Collins, talked about it on the NFL Intelligentsia on their Patreon, which I did an hour and a half on. You should go check it out. voiceofwrestling.com/Patreon. He mentioned something that I found really interesting, and he's right. A lot of the best wide receivers aren't the highest drafted ones. They're the guys you're taking in round 2, round 3, or the back end of the first round because they don't have that like elite athletic trait. What they do have is that nuance. Addison was the 4th wide receiver taken in 2023. He's arguably the best one because he has that nuance and he has that savvy route running ability. And sometimes when it comes to traits, and I'm guilty of this too, being an NFL draft guy, you fall in love with, oh my God, he's so athletic. Oh my God, he's huge and he can move. But sometimes you just forget football isn't played on a spreadsheet. And that's not an insult to analytics. I like analytics. I think when used properly, they're an incredible tool. But you don't play based on an athletic composite. You play because it's football. And there's so much that goes into football. Now, when you have an athletic trait like 4.3 speed, that gives you an advantage. But you have to know how to use it. And that's what we saw with Ty Chandler. Chandler ran a 4.37 40. But he's slow at reading holes open up. Therefore, he is slower than Aaron Jones because Aaron Jones is much quicker at making those decisions and hitting those holes. And that's kind of what we're looking at. You have to figure out the nuances, the differences, and how that speed impacts how you play. And Addison has the ability, just like Justin Jefferson, to play fast and not lose momentum when he's making those breaks. So $30 million is not out of the question. Now, when it comes to a football perspective, because I don't want to get into the off the field stuff. We all may have different opinions on that. I don't believe that it's enough to warrant him not being extended. Now, I know, Dave, you had mentioned, and I think I can't remember where you said you heard it, but you heard that they're going to wait it out with Addison. Is that correct?
That was pretty much the plan. The original plan was they were looking to trade him after this season, but they are so pleased with his progress and taking responsibility for his off-field stuff and how he's performed that they're going to sit there and wait and see if they change their mind and do indeed wish to go with an extension on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they can do an extension now, and I honestly, or as soon as they can. Honestly, I think they should, because he's a good player. He's shown that he's worth extending from an on-field perspective.
He may not want it.
That's also fair. It all depends on what the Vikings are willing to offer, because my guess, and I do not know this for a fact, so do not quote me, they could have had Ivan Pace done Because even though Ivan Pace is a third-year player, he's undrafted. Meaning, so the way the CBA is written, on the final year of your rookie deal, you are eligible for that extension. Well, undrafted players are on 3-year deals. And then the fourth year is a restricted free agency. Basically gives you the ability as the team to keep them if you want, and you have to give them a higher tender. So if you want that first round tender, which basically means somebody would have to give you a first round pick for that player, it's like $7.2 million. So the players themselves end up benefiting as well. I think that's a good thing. And they could have had him done if they wanted to, but my guess, and this goes multitude of ways, that Pace probably wants more than the Vikings are offering. None of that is sourced. This is just kind of my gut feeling on it, because if they could get him done and just get him locked up before he maybe has an even bigger year this year. Now, that could also be a problem with Addison. And I'm glad you brought that up, Dave, because the Addison discussion itself is very interesting, because maybe the Vikings only offer him $30 million. Maybe he thinks he's worth 35, because right now the top of the market is 40. By the time he gets there, maybe it's 45. We saw edge rusher go up almost over 30% in one calendar year. It was at about 35 million. Now it's at 47. Now, will other teams treat the top of the market as 47 million? They may have to. But that could end up being a factor in Addison staying or going, because he wants to be paid like a top guy. Well, if the top guy is at 40, and maybe it's at, let's say it's at 45, maybe he's like, okay, I know I've proven that I am a 1-of-1 alpha. I should get $35 million. $35 million. Vikings like, we'll give you 30. We got to pay Jefferson and McCarthy. We want you, but there has to be some give and take here. You can just say no. Maybe at that point is when you make the trade, because maybe you can get 2 first rounders for him. Maybe it's like a first and a third or something like that. But what's really interesting as well is the Lions have now given the Vikings another blueprint on how to make it work from a salary cap perspective. The Lions are now paying Jared Goff over $50 million a year, Amon-Ra St. Brown 30, and Jameson Williams 27.6. Now, these are average annual value numbers, so they're not going to reflect that exactly when it comes to the salary cap. But the Philadelphia Eagles have it too. Jalen Hurts at 51, AJ Brown at 32, Devontae Smith at 25. You can pay 3 guys. Now, you have to look at concessions other places. The Bengals are also paying 3 guys with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow. We'll see on that how successful it is, because their defense is bad. And because I don't want to include them as like a success, we have to see that the team overall is good. The Lions and Eagles, good football teams, playoff football teams. They both made NFC championship games in the last couple of years, kind of football teams. Will they end up taking that next step? Will the Vikings be in a good spot? Let's find out. I think it's a really interesting conversation, but there's a blueprint to making this happen. And I find it interesting that the Lions paid like this of 1 season of production out of 3. Now, they see him in the building every day. They know the person, they know the work ethic, and they know the upward trajectory better than I could. So maybe I'm wrong here. It feels like a lot, but it might not feel that way in 2 years when we're talking about everything else that we've discussed so far.
I still think Jordan Addison will want to be a wide receiver 1 somewhere. And then the trade value goes up.
Hey, you know what? Very, very possible. Very possible. We'll see. I think it's going to be really fun to watch what happens here, because there's a lot of different elements at play.
Well, let's get through this season first.
Mm-hmm. But I thought it was an interesting one from just a discussion standpoint, because it just happened. And we're talking about the future of the Vikings, which this is a big part of that future. Jordan Addison. So I'm sure I will break down moving forward what a contract could look like, but that won't come till after the season. At this point, if you're listening on podcast, everybody, we're now going to focus on the pregame. So thank you so much for listening. Please give us a 5-star review. We love you guys very much. Now, Dave, I think we need to talk about our friends at Underdog Fantasy before we really move on, because you guys need to go and smash those higher numbers on Justin Jefferson. I got it locked in at 81.5. And let me tell you, no Jalen Johnson, no Kyler Gordon, no TJ Edwards. Guess who's going to cover Justin Jefferson tonight? You are going to cover Justin Jefferson. And that could be huge for what you want to bring in. This is going to be one of the easier plays of the year. Justin Jefferson over that amount. Higher. Go higher. I even got an alternative line. You click on the guy and you can scroll up and down. You pick your stat. And I got it up to over or higher than 100.5 yards. Yeah, 2 of the last 4 season openers, he's crushed it. 184 against Green Bay in 22, 150 in 23 against the Bucks, I believe. Go have fun. Make sure you use promo code Forno, Forno. And by playing your first $5, you'll get $50 in bonus funds. This is going to be the night to play. And the cool part about Underdog, Dave, they have promos for nearly every day of the week during football season. You can get boosts. You can get all kinds of things. You can get free entries. You can get discounted players. On Thursday, Saquon Barkley, you just had to get higher than 0 rushing yards. That's simple. You just got to be in one of those states on the board. Promo code Forno. I also like DeAndre Swift higher than 14.5 receiving yards and Cole Kmet higher than 12.5 receiving yards. He's the number 1 tight end. That should be an easy number to hit. I don't care if Colston Loveland's there. 12.5 is bonkers. Josh Oliver will probably get more than 12.5. Let's have some fun tonight. Now, Dave, this game. We have to talk about this field. It's awful. It's so bad. It's scary that we have to watch a Vikings game on this field. Now, if you haven't seen the pictures, knowing that Dave is the great producer that he is, I bet he has one locked up ready to go. If not, go to Ben Gessling's Twitter, Chris Hockey's Twitter, and you can see the picture. I also have a story up on A2ZSports.com. You can see the lines where the sod is. If you've ever had at your house sod laid down, you can see the lines almost like puzzle pieces. You can see it because it hasn't attached yet and it's still really fresh. Nope, you can see the lines. That is scary. The way that these players move on the field, the way that they cut, the way that they try to use their explosiveness. You get your foot caught in a seam and you're done. Like, you could be talking torn ACL. You could be talking torn Achilles. You could be talking a hamstring pull.
This was earlier in the week.
The reason why that they are doing this is because they had 5 concerts in 5 days over Labor Day weekend. What are we doing? Why is it this trivial? Why is it this archaic of a process? You know what the Cardinals have? Now, their stadium was built significantly newer than this one. They have their grass on a conveyor belt. So they just slide it out of the stadium. And guess what? You could have concerts that are no problem. It blows my mind that this is a problem. That we're going into a game where the surface is already bad on an overall level. But this could be catastrophic for either team. As a football fan, it's abhorrent. Even if I don't like either of these teams, I would feel the same way. You can't let these teams play on this. You can't be putting these players in such disregard. This is about health and safety. This isn't about a quality football game. It's about making sure that these players are okay. It's disgusting. And here's the tough part, Dave. This isn't a situation like, this isn't a noon game that's third from the top on Fox. This is the first Monday night game of the year, and you're putting this out? It's all abhorrent. It's terrible. How does anybody think this is okay in the National Football League, in the building of the Chicago Bears, at anybody who takes care of Soldier Field? They're laying down sand and seed in holes. They're treating it like your community golf course. This is disgusting. We should be talking about how exciting this game is, and here I am yelling about grass. I feel like a 55-year-old man who's excited about the fact that I just got Bermuda and Kentucky bluegrass on my yard. This is awful.
Hey, that's what happens when the Chicago Park District runs your stadium.
It's fine having concerts in the stadium. In fact, I've been to a couple stadium shows. They're fun. But at US Bank Stadium, they have a setup and you're not on top of the field turf. How do you not have a setup where you're not on top of the grass? How do you not have that figured out?
Especially as long as Soldier Field's been around. Now, they'll fix it when they build a new stadium, but until then.
Of course, minutes after those pictures came out, guess what the Bears did? Kevin Warren, that genius. And remember, Kevin Warren was a big part of why the Vikings got US Bank Stadium. They released a letter that they sent to season ticket holders stating that they're focused on that new building in Arlington Heights. Just incredible. The PR spin. Oh, we know our field sucks, but we're going to have a better one. No, I can't believe they're putting these players at risk like this. It's disgusting. Like, I am genuinely pissed about this. These players shouldn't have to be dealing with it. But here we are. They are dealing with it. Now, let's just hope nobody gets hurt.
I'm old enough to remember players playing on dirt.
Oh,
infields.
I remember that. Yeah, the old Oakland Coliseum.
That was one of them, but it was one of many.
I'm trying to think of where else had that. Oakland, San Francisco at Candlestick Park. Mm-hmm. The LA Coliseum, I don't know if they had it.
I don't think so. Now, they played on dirt because the grass wore out, but not. Mm-hmm. Same with the old Met.
Yeah. The Metrodome wasn't great either because all the spots that they had dirt, they patched in AstroTurf. That wasn't great either. It's just insane that we're not taking care of these players. We talk about player safety. And by we, I mean the NFL. And then you're allowing them to play on this. It's just gross. I'm going to get all that yelling out of the way. And now let's focus on the football. I do think this is a big reason why Christian Darrisaw is not playing. And Ben Gessling, I believe he was the one that mentioned it. Darrisaw is talking about, Darrisaw is only going to play once his knee's 100%, once he feels really comfortable, when he's confident. Well, when you're on that playing surface, how can you be confident? How can you? Especially because so much about a torn ACL, and this comes from players and doctors. Your ACL is fine pretty early on. You have to have confidence you can do everything. It's a mental game just as much as it's a physical game when it comes to the recovery process. So Darrisaw himself, is he going to be able to be confident next week? Let's hope so. But obviously wasn't confident tonight, so Justin Schools can get the start. If he struggles, let's see if maybe they put in Walter Rouse. But that's going to hurt the Vikings offense. How much will it hurt? We'll see. I'm guessing they already have a game plan built specifically to combat this because he was questionable. Nobody really knew if he was going to play. And the Vikings knew a lot better than us. I want to point this out. Jaden mentioned in the chat, we are so lucky we have the Wolves because they truly take care of their players. The Wolves are great businessmen. But one of the things that they know just as much as anybody, as Jaden kind of alludes to, people make their business. And they do take care of the players. There's a reason why they've been first or second in every year of the NFLPA Players Survey. And the facilities that the Vikings have are truly immaculate. The Bears, they don't grade so well. They grade poorly with facilities. They grade poorly with food. They grade poorly with training staffs. It's just wild to see the differences between the two franchises. And the Vikings have been around a shorter amount of time than the Bears. And if you look at Vikings history, they are only here because of George Halas and the Chicago Bears, which is kind of crazy to think about. A lot of parallels with these two organizations. But no Darrisaw. But it's not the Vikings injuries. Yet, no Darrisaw, no Harrison Smith. They both suck. They have ways to play without Harrison Smith. They're going to be okay-ish without Christian Darrisaw. But they're nowhere near what the Bears are dealing with. They're down their two best corners, and their fourth best corner, Terrell Smith, tore his ACL in the preseason. So they have cornerback 3. And guess who's going to start opposite Tyreek Stevenson, their cornerback 3? Old friend of the Vikings, Nashawn Wright, who, if you remember, the Vikings got him for Andrew Booth Jr. He didn't make the roster. That's who's going to be the next cornerback up. Plus, their best linebacker, depending on who you talk to, it's either him or Tremaine Edmonds. TJ Edwards is out. And they have a lot of youth at linebacker. So that could be a real problem. That's why I said, take all the Justin Jefferson stuff you can find, because it's going to be bonkers. Now, we know
and TJ Hawkinson.
I'm less worried about less confident in Hawkinson, because Tremaine Edmonds is going to be doing more of the cover stuff than Edwards will. But holy crap, you're going up against an okay cornerback 3. And Jefferson's proven to be QB proof when it comes to like the fantasy side, the statistical side of the game. Dog, this is going to be bonkers. And McCarthy, he's going to have no problem just finding Jefferson all night long. That's going to be a big thing. And there's one other thing. I did a spot on VSiN, the Vegas gambling network, and they asked me about the Ben Johnson-Brian Flores matchup. And if you were here on Thursday, thank you very much. 1. 2, my biggest thing is I still want to see what this Ben Johnson-Brian Flores matchup is going to be. There's no Jared Goff, meaning those really quick blitz counters that they have, probably not going to be as effective. And will Brian Flores want to blitz as much because they have pass rushers now? That's going to be fun. They have interior guys. 4 of their 49 sacks were from defensive tackles last year. Well, guess what? They have Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. Plus, Levi J. Rodriguez looks like he's got some pass rush juice. They love Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. And Elijah Williams, who is unfortunately out tonight. But he's got some juice too. Got to tell you, Dave, that's going to be my number one thing that I'm going to be watching for. What does this Brian Flores defense do against Ben Johnson? And Johnson's not going to have nearly what he had last year. He's going to have the interior. The tackles are suspect. So are the running backs. DeAndre Swift is okay, but they've got nothing outside of him. What does this look like? I'm truly, truly fascinated to see this play out.
And today we learned that Caleb Williams has a learning disability. He's dyslexic and has a hard time with the playbook because of it. How much you want to bet that we may not be blitzing as much, but I'll bet Brian Flores is going to be moving people in and out to show it more, just to mess with his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Which side are they coming from, left or right? Do I call left or right? All that sort of stuff.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be really exciting. I am so pumped for this game. McCarthy, I've been saying this for months. Just remember, week 1 does not make all. All right? We're going to overreact. We're going to get emotional, and that's okay. But when it comes down to brass tacks, remember these things. It's his first start. He's going to get better. But you want to look at the process stuff. What does the process look like? If he throws 3 picks, but they're good process, I'm not going to feel that bad about it. Picks happen. Turnovers happen. But how did you go about them? Did it hit the receiver's hands and then it was just picked, but you made a perfect read and throw? I don't care. I'm going to be mad at the receiver. I'm not going to be mad at the quarterback. I want to see the mechanics. How are the mechanics going to look from a consistency basis? Is he comfortable in the pocket? Does he have command at the line of scrimmage? We saw a lot of that in training camp. This ain't training camp. This is big boy time. What is the process going to look like? That's what I'm looking for. And Edwin asked a wonderful question, and then we're going to wrap up. Are you guys going live after the game? No, we're not. We're going live at the 2-minute warning. Dave will be live, and I will be joining shortly thereafter after my work commitments are done, which will probably be about 10 to 12 minutes after final whistle. And we'll be live after every single Vikings game this year, just like always. And one of those, I'll probably be in Mexico. So I'll be having a margarita. And that will be a good time. But thank you guys so much for joining. We're going to end the show a little early because we got to get food ready. We got to get ready for kickoff. And we want you to have plenty of time to do that as well. I've already seen somebody in the Discord, which you guys should all go join right now. The link is in the show notes. Javier has already made smoked mac and cheese and juicy Lucy's ready to rock and roll. And you can see hint of red in the beef. And that's a good thing. Smoke will turn your beef red. It'll still be fully cooked, but it'll be a red color. Ooh, that sounds pretty good. You're going to want to join that. We're going to have a lot of live game discussion tonight. I will be in there. Dave will be in there. And we're going to have a lot of fun. Anything else before we go, Dave?
No, just make sure you're tuned in live at the 2-minute warning is when I will go live. We can rock that final 2 minutes together, hopefully in glory and celebrating and having a good time and picking on the Bears and the whole works. And then from there, we'll go into the analysis. Darren Campbell, the other half of Two Old Bloggers, will be joining us as well. Jonas Stark, maybe, but it's going to be the wee hours of the morning over in Germany, so I doubt he will, but we'll see. But the normal crew is going to be there, minus Sal, and we can't wait. It's going to be fun. First game of the year, baby.
Get excited. We're here. It's ready. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. SKOL Vikings, baby.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone.